As someone who makes multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars a month with an online business, and as someone who used to not be able to get anything done, I am making this video to help the past version of myself, right? So if you're out there and you're trying to be an entrepreneur, you're trying to make money online, and you can't get anything done in your business, then this is going to be for you, because this was the situation I was in about 4 or 5 years ago, right? So you can see my bank account was low. You can see that I was not happy. This is a picture of me at my 9 to 5 job. I was also doing a lot of degenerate stuff. I was going out and partying. This is a picture of me at EDC. Okay. So I was not getting anything done, right? I was trying really hard to make money online. I was absolutely giving it my best. And I was working in some cases over 100 hours a week, and I wasn't getting anything done. And now I'm in a situation where I'm making multiple six figures per month, and I travel the world, and I only have to work 4 hours a week to maintain my business. Now, in order to grow it, I have to work more than that. And I also just enjoy working as well. So I do work more than 4 hours a week. But in order to maintain my business, I'd only have to work about 4 hours a week. Okay. So, how in the world am I able to do this? How is it that most entrepreneurs are working 60, 70, 80, 100 hours a week and they're not getting anything done? And then I'm only having to work 4 hours a week and I get a ton done. Well, that's what we're going to talk about this. And the key concept here, guys, this is the one thing that is killing your productivity more than anything else, and that is death by 1,000 cuts. Now, this is something that I got from Sam Ovens like 5 years ago. He was a really good content creator that used to make content on YouTube, and this was a huge game changer for me. So let's talk about this. Productivity is killed not by one thing, but by many small, seemingly insignificant distractions. Okay. So usually, like, people think your productivity is just going to get killed by one huge, massive thing. It's almost like a dagger, right? A dagger to the heart. In reality, it's just these little paper cuts that are getting you over time. That's why you're not productive. Now, let's talk about this and how that is and why that is. So, just as an example, when you are using your computer and you have like 100 different tabs open, that is going to cause your productivity to go down tremendously. If you are trying to work on 5 different businesses at once, trying to grow on 5 different social media platforms at once, that's going to cause your productivity to go down tremendously. If you are constantly answering your texts, if your phone is right next to you, right? My phone is right next to me right now, but usually it's not. If I'm basically just doing this in my free time, right? Just to help you guys out. If your phone is right next to you, you're screwed. You're absolutely screwed. If your phone is right next to you and you're constantly answering your text, you are absolutely screwed. Okay, you are not going to get anything done. Things like that, these tiny little things that just eat away over and over again. If you're eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and maybe even snacking throughout the day, that's going to crush your productivity. If you constantly have people coming up to you and disturbing you, that's going to crush your productivity, right? So you see what I mean? It's not a dagger to the heart that kills your productivity. It's all these little paper cuts. So let's talk about this. What can you do? Move to a different setting, right? Moving to a different setting will make or break your productivity. It's not so much an individual that's productive. It's more that you know the individual and their environment and their routine. Okay. So this is a really good quote from Sam Ovens. And moving to a different setting, guys, the reason this is important is because if you've been doing these bad habits, let's say you're checking your email all the time, you're checking your phone all the time, you're checking your messages, checking your chats on Facebook and Instagram and like all these different things, chances are you're highly, highly addicted to that. And you could try to overcome the addiction. And research has shown that addiction oftentimes is environment oriented. So, just to give you an example, they did a study on Vietnam veterans that were addicted to heroin, and then they came back to the States. And these veterans that were addicted to heroin in Vietnam, almost all of them completely overcame their addiction once they were back in the States, once they didn't have access to heroin and they were in a different environment. Almost all of them completely overcame their addiction. Whereas people who are addicted to heroin in the United States and they stay in the United States had a much higher chance of continuing the addiction and eventually dying, of course, overdosing, right? And that is just an example of all the research and the studies that have been going on about how environment plays such a huge role in addiction. If you are in an environment where you are constantly doing stuff that you're addicted to, constantly scrolling social media, on YouTube, et cetera, it's going to be almost impossible for you to overcome that addiction. There are ways to do it, which I will go over in this video, but it's going to be incredibly hard. So one really simple thing you can do is just simply change your environment, right? That's a very simple, easy way to break a lot of these bad habits. So that could mean moving to a different part of your city, like moving apartments or houses. Let's just say moving apartment. It could be moving to a different city, right? Like you could even move to a different state across the country. Um, it could be traveling, right? Et cetera, et cetera. So changing your environment is huge, guys. I mean, not to go too off topic, but traveling will just expand your mind. When you travel and you experience different cultures, that will totally expand your mind. It'll be like you're a completely different person because you'll realize that a lot of these things that you thought were true are only true in your culture, but they're not true in every culture. And that is a huge realization. And it really just blows your mind when you travel. Okay, so moving to a different setting will make or break your productivity. Another thing you can do is different room. Okay, just work in a different room. So, for instance, I don't like working in the same place that I relax, generally speaking. So, usually, if I'm going to relax and I'm going to watch, some type of show, there's a particular place in my house that I go to relax and watch a show or relax, watch YouTube or browse social media and that kind of thing. And there's a particular place where I work, and I don't like mixing those two places up. When I'm in my work setting, I like to work, and when I'm in my relaxation setting, I like to relax. Then also another thing is in my bedroom, I like to sleep. I don't want to be like watching a bunch of shows and stuff when I'm in my bedroom because that's the time for me to sleep. So pretty much in my bedroom, all I do is sleep, right? So that's another thing. So different room can be really powerful too. You can also just go to like a coffee shop or some type of co-working space, right? So if you're one of those people that when you're home, you just can't get any work done, then go to a coffee shop or a co-working space, right? So this is kind of a mini thing you can do. Now, if none of these are an option, for whatever reason, none of these are an option, and obviously there's more things you can do with this, like use your creativity. But if none of these are an option, and I'm probably going to talk about this a little bit later, you can always just use like, and I recommend you do this either way, just use blocking apps. Um, so for instance, I block YouTube homepage. So whenever, obviously, as a YouTuber, I have to be on YouTube all the time. So I block the YouTube homepage. So when I get on YouTube, I do not want a bunch of Mr. Beast videos and all this stuff popping up because I know immediately I'm going to be like, oh God, I got to watch this, right? And I don't want that temptation in the first place. So I block the YouTube homepage. The only time I look at the YouTube homepage is when I open up an incognito tab. So that's always blocked. I also block websites, and I'll show you the exact apps I use. There's a million of them. But I block chess.com, for instance, because I was playing way too much chess. I block, like TikTok, etc. I block websites. And again, the only way I can look at them is if I use like Safari, right? Because I'm using a Mac, so I'd have to log into Safari, which is a terrible web browser. And that's the only way I would be able to look at these websites. And I never log into Safari, so I pretty much never look at them. So that's kind of a way of changing your environment, is just to simply block stuff that disturbs you, right? Another way is I check email once a day. Okay, check email once per day. Okay. Um, and Napoleon, for instance, just to give you an example, I like giving historical examples and war examples apparently. But Napoleon, for instance, he wouldn't read his mail until 1 week after it arrived. And by the time he read that mail 1 week after it arrived, usually it had just sorted itself out. And it's kind of the same thing with email, right? Emails, I've never had a huge opportunity from email that wasn't available, the next day. Right? So if you're just constantly checking your emails throughout the day, you're not going to get anything done. So just don't do that. So there are many different ways you can change your environment, guys. These are just a few examples. And you really got to do it, right? You got to do it if you want to be successful. All right. And by the way, let's look at those blocking apps real quick. So there's BlockSite. I think this is blocksite.com. This is what it looks like right here. You can just find it. It's blocksite.com. Okay, excuse me. It's BlockSite. It's a web extension, so you can check this one out. There's plenty of them out there. I mean, this one is decent. I'm sure there's other ones that are just as good. And then if you look at my YouTube homepage, this is what it looks like when I log into YouTube. I think I have something very similar on Facebook where I just block the homepage of YouTube and Facebook. So I believe the exact app I use is the Block YouTube Feed app. So, you could use this as well. And again, there's probably a million of these out there. If you want to use this one, you can. So just to expand on this, guys, small distractions add up. Small interruptions impact your productivity over time. So examples of this would be slow internet, right? If you have really slow internet and everything takes a long time to load, that's going to interrupt your flow, right? The flow of your work. That's something that's really irritating to me. I don't like having slow internet, so I try to have the fastest possible internet. Finding chargers, deciding on meals, et cetera, et cetera. And this is why, guys, you should just plan your day, right? Plan your day out. And this is where this picture right here comes in, right? Plan tomorrow, today, and use flashcards to do it. So I have a ton of colored flashcards. I use a different color for every day of the week. And I plan out my day, right? I plan it out hour by hour. And this is a really, really powerful thing to do. So if I say I'm going to do this, the day before, I do it pretty much no matter what. And that is super, super powerful. So you don't really have to, there's no choices to make, right? You don't make any choices. You already made the choices the night before. And so in the day, you just execute. That's it. You just execute on the choices that you already made. And so that is a super simple time management technique that I use. And then you don't have to do all this stuff. You don't have to decide on meals. The meals are already decided. You don't have to find chargers. You don't have to deal with slow internet, right? Because your day is just planned out. And when it comes to mental bandwidth and focus, this is another thing that they've done a lot of studies on. Once you're interrupted, it can take you 30 minutes to an hour to recover from your interruptions in terms of focus. So any type of administrative stuff, for instance, stuff that's not really important, it's not something that you have to act on very quickly. Something like doing taxes, right? That kind of thing. Like obviously that's important, but it's not something you have to act on immediately unless it's tax season. But you want to keep your QuickBooks up and stuff like that. I only talk about that stuff at night. I do not talk about that stuff during the day, because that interrupts me from what's actually important, from what actually drives results in my business. And so whenever that stuff comes up, I'm like, nope, not doing that until tonight. So it doesn't matter if the thing only takes 1 minute to do. It's going to take you half an hour to get back into that same state of mind. Okay? So do not let things interrupt you. And a really big time management misconception is that people just underestimate the true cost of small tasks. An analogy here is comparing time management to financial management. Death by 1,000 cuts applies to both, right? So, a lot of businesses, for instance, the number one reason that businesses fail is because of cash flow. That's the number one reason that businesses fail, and it's just because they don't understand their ins and outs, right? Like how much money they're making and how much money they're spending. So that's kind of the same thing as death by 1,000 cuts. You have to understand that. And usually it's not the big things. It's like a bunch of the little things that get you. All right, so how to get things done and unlock optimal productivity. So we talked about this already. We're going to go into this in more detail, but let's get basically like a big full picture of how to do this. So first of all, you want to identify small distractions. Um, that's where you start, right? Identify small distractions and just be aware of your time usage, right? So one thing you can do, you don't have to do this all the time, but it's a good thing to do this, maybe once a quarter. Just do it once a week. Just see what you're spending your time doing, track it on a 30-minute basis. This is something Elon Musk does. He actually tracks every 15 minutes, and then I think sometimes he tracks every 5 minutes. He literally does this 15 minutes and 5 minutes. Now, I don't think he does it all the time, but track your time in 30-minute increments for a week and categorize and analyze where your time is going, right? Now, again, you don't have to do this all the time, but it's almost like an audit. It's almost like auditing your time, right? Audit your time and see what you're spending your time doing. And then identify non-essential tasks and emphasize on elimination rather than efficiency or delegation. Many of the tasks you're doing, you should probably just straight up eliminate them. Like they're just simply non important, right? And the real masterful way of dealing with time is you just want to start eliminating the wasteful practices. For instance, spending a bunch of time replying to every email, only 5% of the emails are worth replying to. All the other ones, just obviously just delete them, right? So you can eliminate wasteful practices. And if for whatever reason you can't eliminate them, they're important enough to where you can't eliminate them, but you don't want to do them yourself, you either do them faster or you just straight up delegate them. I mean, you can literally hire people for 3 hours, $3 an hour easily, even less than that if you want to, for very, very simple tasks. But you can hire people like $3 an hour to do these tasks for you, right? So like checking your email and stuff like that, just like stop doing it. It's just a waste of time. And then think, is your productivity improved? If yes, reassess your productivity. Okay. Establish rails for productivity. So use productivity systems as rails to be on a track. My favorite productivity system is very simple. Just plan tomorrow today. It's very simple. I use this and then I use Google Calendar to plan ahead a little bit, right? So just so I know what's coming up and stuff like that, I use Google Calendar. Plus I have, calls. I have to do calls, so I have them stored on Google Calendar, right? So the combination of Google Calendar for long to medium term planning and then simply flashcards for short term planning is a killer combination. And then focus on core business activities. Prioritize delivering value to customers over peripheral activities, right? And delivering value to your business, right? So at the end of the day, the company that provides the most value to its clients wins. And if you're dedicating 80% of your time for client fulfillment and 20% to acquisition, right? Now, at first, if nobody knows about your product, of course, you have to dedicate a lot of time to acquisition. Okay. But if you just do an amazing job for your clients, you're just going to get referrals like crazy, right? And then you don't have to worry that much about acquisition because people are just beating down your door to be your client. So you're just going to get a ton of referrals if you just do an amazing job for your clients. And so you need to identify, depending on where your business is, where is the bottleneck? So for instance, usually it goes like this: traffic, leads, clients, and then fulfillment. Okay, fulfillment. And that's basically how it goes. So where's your bottleneck? Are you just not getting any traffic? Does nobody know who you are? Okay, then focus on marketing, right? Are you getting a lot of traffic but you're not converting them? Okay, focus on leads, making sure you're getting the right traffic and getting the right leads. Are you getting a lot of traffic but you're getting them on a sales call but you're not getting any clients? Okay, well you need to focus on clients. So this is sales, right? You need to focus on sales. And then are you getting a lot of traffic, clients, et cetera, but you're not getting them results? Okay, then you need to focus on fulfillment, right? So this is going to change all the time. But honestly, focusing on fulfillment after you've gotten those initial clients is really what you should be doing, spending 80% of your time doing, right? And you're going to understand your clients on a much deeper level, and it's going to help with everything else if you just focus on fulfillment, right? So it's really, really important. Now, obviously, at first, you got to focus on marketing and sales. But once you get those first few clients, you really should shift your focus to fulfillment, because if you do a good job, you're just going to get a ton of referrals. And then make high impact decisions. Consider the half life of decisions. Make sure that the decisions you make have a long half life. An example of this is hiring a chef to solve the food problem long term. Okay. So you notice that I'm not spending like a lot of effort on these videos. I know that these videos are super valuable, but I'm not editing them like crazy. Why? Because I'm just focused on value, right? Just giving value to you and just kind of teaching the things that I've learned from working with my clients and getting my clients results. I've gotten, 15 people, actually 16 people to 7 figures a year on YouTube. I've helped about 5 people get to 8 figures per year on YouTube, and a bunch of others get to high level numbers, making a full-time income, making a killing even on YouTube. And that's literally what I do is I just teach people how to grow and make money from YouTube. So I just focus on one big thing, and pretty much everything else is outsourced in my life. And by the way, if you want to learn how to make a bunch of money from YouTube, check out the description in the pinned comment below. So this is a great example. I don't cook food for myself. I have somebody. I actually had a chef do it for a while, and now my girlfriend cooks for me, right? But I had a chef doing it for a long time, and it's just something like, obviously I'm not going to cook food for myself, right? Because my time is worth thousands of dollars an hour. So it makes absolutely zero sense for me to be cooking food for myself. That would be stupid. That'd be unbelievably stupid. And then create structure and routine. So this is kind of a paradox. Constraints can increase productivity. So if you just basically constrain yourself to doing certain things and you put, strategic constraints on yourself, in many cases, it can actually increase your productivity and it can increase your creativity. So just as an example, Dr. Seuss, his most popular book ever was Green Eggs and Ham. And he'd actually written a bunch of books before this. But what happened is one of his friends bet him that he couldn't write a book that only has 100 total words in it, like just using the same 100 words over and over again. And he's like, all right, let's see if I could do it. So he wrote Green Eggs and Ham. He used 100 words only. Obviously, some of them repeated, but he limited himself to 100 words. And it was his bestseller ever. So this actually increased his creativity. So setting a no phone rule, for instance, during work hours to boost your focus is a great example of this. And then continuously monitor and just try things out. Another thing is, like, imagine, people will pretend like, oh, I don't have the right tech for YouTube. Well, why don't you challenge yourself to make videos without the right tech and see if you can make them pop off, right? And do them quickly too. Just like I'm doing right now. I'm just using Loom to record these videos. And some of these videos do really well. Now, I might not be getting a ton of views with these videos, but I do attract the right people. And then just see, are there any new productivity issues? Okay. This goes all the way back to here. Do another audit, identify small distractions. And then obviously you're going to figure it out more and more over time, and you want to maintain optimal productivity. And what the most important thing to do will change, right? Sometimes it might be fulfillment. Sometimes it might be traffic and leads, so marketing and sales. But generally speaking, guys, the really high leverage activities are going to be marketing. So this could include content creation, for instance. That's a type of marketing. These are the really high leverage activities: marketing, sales, fulfillment. Generally speaking, you should be doing one of these 3 things pretty much at all times: marketing, sales, and fulfillment. If you're spending a lot of time doing something that isn't involved in these 3 things, you're probably wasting your time, right? Answering emails, doing all kinds of goofy stuff. Like, guys, marketing, sales, fulfillment. That's pretty much it. You should be focusing on those 3 things and those 3 things only. And this is all about focus. So if you just do this, you're going to be crushing it. And again, I recommend using this for a productivity system. I do have ADHD, so it might be one of the reasons why this is so effective for me. Just keeping a flashcard just like this. And then Google Calendar for longer term stuff. So yeah, guys, if you want to work with me, apply down in the description and the pinned comment below. If you're a business owner, like a coach, consultant, online service provider, agency owner, or you're a YouTuber that just wants to learn how to properly monetize their YouTube channel, because there's a lot of YouTubers out there that could be making millions of dollars a year and they're barely getting by, then yeah, those are the types of people I work with. So click the link down in the description and the pinned comment below.